Tom. Let me start by saying I've never been accused of speaking too slowly. So if I do come rapidly through some of this information, please ask questions, either now or afterwards when we're maybe on a break. So I want to get started real quickly, do a brief discussion about how the internet works in the early internet with BGP. I want to go into what the goal of the original promise of what RPKI is here to do and why we believe that needs to be done. I'm going to give information on the current RPKI deployment within the ARIN region, which everyone in this room is in the ARIN region. So as a unit, this is for you. And then go over what ARIN's RPKI services are that we offer within the RPKI products suite that we have. So security of the early internet. BGP is where it is. And when BGP came up, it was intended to be easy. It was, hey, let's make connections with everybody and let it go, let it fly. Well, we know making an easy session isn't a secure session. And as the internet transitioned into a money-making venture versus a research and information sharing venture, there were points with which that we could no longer rely upon, those interpersonal relationships where it started from, and we had to come up with different technologies to provide network operators more information to make good routing decisions. So about 25 years ago, the RPSL, the routing policy specification language, was standardized. And this gave network operators an opportunity to share information about how they wanted everyone else on the internet to see their resources, telling them about how to get there from here, how to present, how they were presenting themselves, and it gave people way distant from them an opportunity to hear this data and make better choices on how they were going to route traffic back and forth for these resources. So ARIN maintains, along with all the other RIRs, our own IRR databases. Now, the IRR is a loose organization of ecosystem of about 20 databases run by the RIRs, independent companies, money-making ventures that people can use and pull from to make these decisions. But ARIN and the other RIRs are the only ones that can make authoritative decisions and control the data that goes into these databases. So the recommendation always has been and will continue to be, make sure that you're pulling IRR data from ARIN's database, because we can verify and validate that who the proper resource holder is, the one who created the objects that are in there. We don't discourage using third-party databases as a form of redundancy, but the fact is these third-party databases are not authoritative, and they can't confirm information that's in them is genuine and accurate based on who holds the resources. So what was the basic goal, or what was the initial goal of the RPKI? Well, unfortunately, I'm going to read this one straight away. RPKI was there to provide a cryptographically signed method for internet number resource holders and allowing them to make an authoritative statement about the origin of a prefix or prefixes from the origin for those prefixes as they're announced onto the internet. And that fundamental component, that object that was enabled, is the route origin authorization, or the ROA. So RPKI now gives another set of data that network operators can use to make better decisions on how they're going to route information that they hear from the internet. It also gives resource holders like you the opportunity to make those statements and have more of an impact on how distant networks and other operators see your data on how you want it to be seen. And then RPKI also gives the opportunity to reduce the impact for you as the resource holders. As you make your decisions, the RPKI community as a whole can take advantage of this information and limit your impact to hijacks or otherwise attempted ways of grabbing your data off the internet. So in the early days, definitely the internet was simple, but it still even functions the same way today. Operators who have addresses make announcements to the internet. Those announcements flood to the other side of the internet. You know, network on the right sends routes, and network on the left hears it, puts it in their database, and says, hey, yeah, this is great. This is the same return. That's just how it worked. It's open. It's meant to be open, and it makes things simple. But the problem is that once it became a money-making venture, there was always somebody who wants to take that money away from you, whether it's to actively steal it, to execute a denial of service attack, things along these manners that people now say, hey, I'm gonna cause problems here. So what these bad actors do is make themselves look like rightful holders of the resources. So network on the right's announcing their block that they got from Aaron and makes it to the other side of the network. Great. But this bad actor can also make an announcement saying, here's this prefix coming from my origin ASN, and there's nothing in the way that's stopping it. Network on the left says, hey, great, now I have two good paths to two different ASNs for this route. Which one's the best one? And for many vendors, for many of the operating systems that are out there, the last one's the best one. So bad actor has successfully now started interrupting the normal flow of traffic to the proper resource holder. Now, how is it that the RPKI works? Well, here's this fundamental component I talked about, the ROA. So you now are the resource holder on the right, and you're making a statement about your prefix, that it should be coming from your ASN. And the network C, kind of towards the left hand of the diagram, is an operator who's making a decision based on what's called in the RPKI the validity state of the information that they're hearing. When proper resource holder makes their announcement, it makes it through to that network is making choices and says, hey, what I hear is genuine, and I'm going to pass this traffic along. But if we look at bad guy in this case, and he sends traffic across, and the same network that's making decisions says, no way, this is not going to happen. I'm not going to take this, I'm not going to pass it along. What I'm hearing is wrong, so be it. But as we know, the internet's a big place, and there's just another path. And bad actor can get there by sending it down the bottom of the network, down the bottom of the page. And again, it's equal cost, it's another source, and networks will just accept that route. Now, the way that RPKI is going to work better is as more and more operators start to make decisions based on this validity data. So let's look at this example where two networks now are stopping the traffic coming from this bad actor. It's very, very frustrating. This person who previously had been able to steal some traffic, it's not getting all the way across the other end of the network. But what we did see, actually, is the fact that only a few of the networks were protected off the left-hand side of the screen. And everyone else in the middle was being impacted, sending traffic, filling up bandwidth, filling up routing tables. It worked, but it wasn't working well. So how does it work better? More operators need to make decisions based on RPKI data. So in this example, networks is close to the bad actor in making those decisions, and that traffic doesn't get along. It doesn't move to the other side. And missed it there. So the graphic was missed on this one, but the result is now the traffic doesn't flood across the internet. We're not blocking, or we're not carrying that unauthorized load of traffic. And in general, as more operators use that RPKI validity data and make decisions, it's better for all of us. But the point is, if you, the resource holders, don't create that ROA, anybody who is making decisions are not going to hear that information that you want to put out there. So it's on you as the resource holders to get these ROAs created for your resources. So inside of the Aaron region, only 19%, or somewhere south of 20% of Aaron organizations have chosen to start using RPKI. That's partially a result of rules that had been in place at Aaron for many, many years. And I've been working very hard in the community listening to, hey, what do we need to do? Where do we fix this? How do we make it easier for you to deploy RPKI? And to the result of this, we now have 3,000 organizations that are using hosted RPKI, very much lower number of using delegated RPKI, and I will go into the differences of what those two are. And then we have a third service that is specific to delegated users of RPKI. We're doing a repository service, and I'll explain that a little bit more. So with ROAS, inside of the ARIN region, the information is what you put in. We can't do that for you. No one else can do that for you. It's the resource holder themselves that can only make those authorized statements. And inside of the ARIN community, inside of that ARIN database, we've got tens of thousands of these ROAS. And then there are these validated payloads. Now, a VRP in the sense that a VRP may have, a ROA may have multiple prefixes from a particular origin programmed into it. But what a VRP does is it takes every one of those prefix, origin, and another component, a max length figure inside of that, and validates each one individually. So that's why there's a number more VRPs than ROAs, and that's just a byproduct of multiple prefixes being put into each individual ROA. And at the bottom, the ARIN RPS repository, that's the repository service. It's another independent database that is identifying delegated customers who've chosen to use this service for their ROAs. And you can see the example in here is there are even more of those operators who are creating ROAs with more than one prefix in it. That's why those numbers are a little bit different. If you look on the internet and look at valid announcements, only 29 or south of 29% of ARIN resources announced to the internet are covered by RPKI or are identified as valid. To be identified as valid, there is a ROA with information that has been converted into a VRP that exactly matches what is being seen on the internet. To be honest with you, the number sucks. If we compare ourselves as a community to the other RIR communities, we are definitely lagging behind. Something we need to fix. Even though that since last year those numbers went up, that's great, but they're not where they need to be. Now, on the V6 side of the house, it's great. The numbers are a lot better, and I think it's been part of the education that we've been putting out that, hey, let's go ahead and do this, let's get it done. But it's also a byproduct of the fact that many addresses within the ARIN region are not eligible to use these RPKI services, and I'll go a tiny bit into that as to why that's the case. So one shining point of what we have here is that not taking into consideration the prefixes in the ARIN resources that are announced there, but the coverage for IPs that ARIN has been allocated by IANA and are marked as RPKI valid, where RPKI valid, again, is where a VRP and announcement on the internet has been matched as good. But the caveat here is the number of addresses that are eligible and how you get to be valid. Eligibility is defined or established by an organization like you becoming covered under a contract for your resources, and they're called a legacy resources services agreement or just a resource services agreement. And without signing those or going through the process, your resources are not eligible. And just to give you a sense is that since ARIN was established in 1997, anything that was allocated post that period, you had to agree to an agreement. You had to have some sort of, say, yes, you don't want to do it. But any organizations, research facilities, universities, things like that, governments that got addresses assigned before ARIN was ARIN, those are what we consider legacy. And if you have not signed a legacy agreement, unfortunately, you can't use the advanced RPKI services. Now, highly recommend it. We have, in the back, people already brought it up, but we have Lisa Lydell, a director from our Registration Services Department, who is here to answer your questions about what legacy resources are or how to get it done. Highly recommend it. And please do ask questions if you have any of them. The message is we can do better. Plain and simple. If you don't make your decision, if you don't make those statements, we can't take and gain the benefits of running RPKI. So let me go a little bit more into the services that Aaron provides. And wow, some of the graphics are a little messed up, but let me talk to them. The hosted RPKI service is the first place that anybody should start. It is the least responsibility put upon you. And to that point, there's 98% of Aaron's organizations that run RPKI use hosted. And the way the product works is Aaron will maintain the cryptographic components. Aaron runs the repository where your ROAs are stored. And we publish those to the outside world for people who want to pull them down and make those decisions based on validity data. And only you are the ones responsible for the creation of those ROAs. I mean, they're your resources, and those are the statements that you have to make. This is by far the easiest way of doing it, and it's the great way to get started. Now, Delegated, again, layers are a little mixed up here. Sorry about that. In the Delegated system, you, the organization, runs your own cryptography. You run the certificate authority. You maintain the database, and you publish it to the outside world. And orgs that maybe want to do this want to have full control over the environment. That's fine. But the recommendation that I would give, and any one of my peers would give, is that if you do run Delegated, you should have an organization built within your company that can manage and understands the ins and outs in more detail of how RPKI works. And then you have an infrastructure that is stable enough and can provide the higher uptime requirements that go along with running and publishing a repository. If the repository with all that information about your ROAs goes away, it would have unintended and certainly not pleasing impact to the information that people use. Now, I brought up the publication service, and again, this is specific to delegated customers. So a delegated RPKI customer who wants to run their certificate authority and wants to have control over their ROAs, create them in their own environment, that's great. And actually running a certificate authority isn't difficult, but it's still really not the first place you want to start. But if they don't want to run that high availability uptime repository, this is the way to go. Aaron will run that repository and run those protocols and make your life a little bit simpler by doing that. So if long-term, if your organization runs Delegated, personally, I would recommend using a repository service. So I'm going to quickly go over some of the new enhancements that Aaron has been producing and offering to the customers. What you're going to see is the things that are being deployed this week. We have a new set of features that are being enabled, and the way they look, the way they work, on Saturday. So on Monday morning, when you go in and want to sign up and go create your ROAs in RPKI, this is what it's going to be looking like. But before you get there, you need to have four things. Number of resources, of course. The signed agreement, so those resources can be used with RPKI. You'll need an AS number. May not necessarily have to be yours. An AS number is actually something that is kind of fluid inside of a ROA. And the use cases the previous speaker brought up, scrubbing services, from a DDoS provider. That's another, one functional use where you would put an autonomous system number that may not be yours into a ROA. And then your Aaron account on the Aaron Online Service has to have proper privilege. So it has to be an admin, tech, or routing point of contact in order to make these changes. So since the beginning of the year, we've done a lot with simplifying navigation. On the left-hand side of the screen, it used to be very cryptic on how you would be able to go to and start configuring RPKI services or signing up for them. We have opted to put it pretty much straight into your face. A single click into routing services will give you a drop down that goes to, hey, you want to run RPKI. This dashboard that was then developed as well gives you full view capability into all of your organizations that maybe you're linked to. I mean, some of us only are linked to one organization, but there are others that may have 2 or 4 or 10 or more. We did not present that to people in the past, and we're also now giving you information based on where you stand. Now, this second organization down here hasn't signed up for RPKI. Let's go through the steps and see some of the differences. So if anybody has signed up previously to this, you get presented with very much a similar screen to what you see here. But the big difference is this used to be a ticketed process that had to go through our help desk to validate your request for your resources to create this thing called a resource certificate, which are the things that are valid things that you can use RPKI with. And there was a delay. One of the big things we've done is we've taken that delay away. As soon as you go and select, hey, sign up, brings you straight to the next step. Hey, let's start creating rows. Let's make it simple. One thing I missed before going to this slide is when a customer went to go sign up and they would say, select hosted RPKI, you would be challenged and asked to provide a public key. There was a public key pair, private key pair requirement that was previously put on you that has now been removed. Thank you. No, I'll take my bows later. So, getting to the point, you click, you go in, you don't wait, your resource certificate's been created, here you are, you're ready to start going. And no delay to you, fantastic. You're ready to start creating your ROAS. Now, previously, again, the ROA form was clogged with a whole lot of fields you needed to fill in. And really, some of those fields weren't that important, they weren't pertinent, and we have now moved on and removed them. And one of the ways that we were able to do that is the signing requirement has been removed. You used to have to put forth the location of your private key before a ROA would be created, and it matched that public key that you shared when you went and signed up. Well, no more key requirements. No more matching things up. So now it's a very basic form that you go to fill out. You fill out your origin, you fill out the prefix or prefixes that you want to put into your ROA, the max length component inside of a ROA, use it or not. I mean, I'm not going to go into it just to go, I'll drop down into the weeds and we'll definitely run out of time. And then a ROA name field. Now, ROA name really isn't part of the standard, not really. It's not part of the standard for a ROA. Historically, Aaron had made it mandatory that you had to put one in. You no longer have to create one. I would still consider using one because if you create 10 ROAs, it's easy to track them. If you have to create 100 ROAs, it gets more difficult on figuring out and remembering which one references which resources that you're going in and doing. Now, the next improvement is after you would go and select this information and say, I want to create my ROA, it gives you a presentation back of this is what's going to be in the database. And circled up on the screen is another huge bonus. We are starting to automatically reroll ROAs. And what that means to you is you weren't having to fill in a validity start and validity end date. It's just not important anymore. We are making it easier upon you so that you don't have to track when your ROA is created, when your ROA is going to be, when it reaches end of life. We send emails when you get close to that time, but we all know that emails fall into buckets, and maybe your Aaron emails fall into a deeper bucket. So we're taking that need for you to focus on it away from you, and we are automatically rerolling ROAs. And that includes any ROA that's in our database today that has been created using this web interface will be scooped up and will automatically start rerolling. So ROAs that you've created aren't going anywhere. They're going to Evergreen. And one of the last things that was a pain point was if you used to go create a row, you would be presented with, hey, congratulations, your row has been created, here's a ticket. And you'd have to navigate through the old nasty way. But now, hey, you create a row, chances are you want to create another one. So we confirm that the one that you had done worked. And here you go, here's the information that was a part of it. And here's a button that you can select to go create some more. Now I'm going to call out a little bit. I circled in red in that green field what is going to be presented to you. Everything outside of the red circle in that green field we've taken out because the information that says, hey, your row is going to be in our database in 24 hours, I'm sorry. The row you create is going to be in our database within 5 minutes. We have a 5-minute refresh rate on the repository. So the 24-hour number is a very old requirement put on the RARs for putting ROAS in their repository. It's a number that really isn't pertinent anymore, so we're taking that information out. But we simplified the process. We've pulled down some of the harder requirements that are put upon you to start using RPKI. It's easy. We need to do it. So, moral of the story, stand up for your routes. You're the one who's in control of your resources. Make statements about those resources. Create those ROAS, because without those ROAS, people can't benefit from them. You won't, and nor will other people maybe distant on the internet or further away from you. There are already cases where RPKI has been determined to have made a difference, stopping an impact to a resource holders network before it became bad. A growing number of service providers are starting to require that you put information in a ROA before they will sign paperwork with you. And those could be transit providers, those could be hosting providers. We have a couple sponsors, thank you, AMZIX and DKIX, that are requiring ROAs to be created for anything that you send onto the internet exchange. So if you don't have these things now and you know that you're going to be expanding your services further out, please go ahead and do this. In the long run, it'll help you out and it'll help everybody out. And the really final reason why you want to be using RPKI is as a feature for routing security. RPKI is continuing to be developed. The IETF is finding new ways, the working groups are finding new ways on how to use the data, finding new ways on pulling in information from older sources of routing security information and pulling it into the RPKI infrastructure. And it's going to continue to moving forward. So make that call, make that decision. I'm putting it out there. Please sign up, use RPKI, create your ROAS. If you only do that, that makes a huge difference to people in the room and people across the internet. Now, if you have questions about RPKI, you can certainly reach out to our help desk. There are multiple ways you can get in touch with them. We have a team of me and one other, so we're a team now. We have a mailing alias that if you have more in-depth questions other than how do I sign up, myself and another coworker of mine, Nathan, we are here to answer your questions and help you with more difficult or in-depth questions on how to use RPKI. And that's it.
Hi, just a quick question. On the, how big of a address space is the legacy address space that you mentioned is kind of problematic?
So Aaron has, and I'm going to be looking in the back of the room, the number of address resources that have been assigned to Aaron is disproportionate to everywhere else in the world. Where I put up that the 1.12 billion are eligible, the legacy resources that aren't signed are upwards of another 400 million or more addresses that are not covered, that are not eligible to use RPKI services, let's put it that way. And without that, that huge block of addresses that Aaron has been assigned, there's going to be no benefit for them if legacy resource agreements aren't adhered to or come up.
And one last question, have other regions solved that problem in a different way?
Aaron is unique in the fact the way we handle our what we called legacy resources. And there was much thicker legal information that had to be agreed to in those agreements. Other RIRs didn't have those requirements put upon them. So if you were to look at other numbers from the RIRs, they look much better because there were fewer steps that their organizations or their members had to go through to sign up for RPKI.
Thank you.
Hi, Alex Deft. Just curiosity question. In the combined Aaron space, if a ROA is put in which conflicts with an IRR entry, are they checked against each other, and will the ROA then say, oh, you have an invalid IRR? Poof.
You can see into the future.
Thank you.
So today's answer to that question is no. If a ROA has been created if an IRR route object has been created that now is referencing a new ROA that has been created, today we do not check the old for the new. We can confirm that resource is yours and that's how it got into the IRR. Further along this year, what we're going to start doing is matching the two databases together. So if you're creating a ROA and there is a missing or mismatching IRR route object, we're going to fix that. And we will tie together that ROA and that IRR object because they're both important for routing security across the board. Automatic created objects you can't get rid of until you get rid of your ROA. So we're using that as a housekeeping sort of scenario. That does not mean that any route objects that you've created outside of the automatically generated ones, you still have full control of fixing, creating, turning those things up, because there are reasons why you might have different mask lengths inside of your objects. But later on this year, third, fourth quarter, we will be fixing exactly that scenario.
Thank you.
Sure.
So I'll put the time up, so I'll make this quick. When you had the graphic that went through and showed the blocking traffic from the operator standpoint, is it only blocking because there's already a known record that has a ROA, so it's just not replacing that? Or is it not accepting it because it will only accept something with ROA?
So RPKI validity state is certainly based on the existence of a ROA and the existence of a route announcement. Those two data sets are separate from one another. I mean, RPKI by itself has no impact over the way the internet works. Someone has to make a conscious decision to balance things together. Now, if you as the resource holder are not announcing a prefix, bad person who can get away with announcing that prefix from somewhere else is going to be successful. But if both you and bad actor are doing the same thing without a ROA in place, things are going to slide across. But if that ROA exists and someone else is trying to masquerade as you, it's going to stop them. And that's what RPKI does.
Cool. Thank you.
Sure.
Justin Wilson, what is being done about the people who have done the public-private key? Is that just going to roll over when it expires, or is there going to be a process, or how's that going to work?
So good for you that you have a public-private key. You can store it away somewhere, but moving forward, it's not required. You will never have to present those to Aaron ever again. Because that requirement has been removed, that is what enabled us to auto-re-roll your ROAs. So you will never be presented or challenged for your key again with regards to using RPKI services.
Cool.
Hi, Jordan Villarreal, Netbox Labs. Question about PKI just in general, what has a tendency to happen, or what I've seen with networking teams, is when networking teams need a resource from a different team, they don't get it, and they have to run it on their own. So like all the CAs and everything, oh, the network engineers need that, set up your own.
Right.
Would a traditional PKI team at a large enough organization need to understand anything different to help you implement RPKI if you were going to be rolling it on your own? Or is it best to just say, hey, let you guys handle it?
My recommendation, well, let me say, the RPKI uses the same protocols and is really formed on the same HTTPS infrastructure. If you looked at things underneath the hood, it's very difficult to tell the difference. Specifically in this case, there are components of it where there's some standardization that might be missed on what a existing PKI group, that way they understand it inside of a team. To get started with using RPKI, I would highly recommend doing hosted so that internally you folks can figure out how to implement moving forward.
Okay.
And get better practice with it. And Aaron has a test environment, so if you aren't quite ready but you want to start looking at it, our operational test environment is available with exactly the same features that you have in our production environment.
That'll save me some Google searches. Thank you.
Thank you.